Hi, this is Mashnu, and I have here one of my own games again. I played this one against someone who it's a very strong. He's a very strong opponent, and I had never won against him. I had played several times, and I was defeated a few times, and I played a few draws as well, but I had never managed to win. And I'm very happy that I won this time. There is a first time for everything. Before I start the game, I want to tell you that there is another chess video maker here on YouTube who has not many subscribers, but I find his videos very instructive and very good. So I want to tell you, to ask you, if you haven't done it before, to visit the channel of Chess Video Guy. Chess Video Guy is a Canadian chess player rated above 2200, and he makes very interesting videos. He has also his own chess weblog on the internet with interesting advices and stories. So Chess Video Guy. But well, let's now go back to my own game. I was playing white here, and I opened with d4, d5, c4, c6. This is a variation that has been played in one of the games that we played before, and also then he took on c4. Now played a4 to prevent that black tries to hold on to the pawn by playing b5. Bishop to f5, bringing out the bishop out of the pawn chain before playing e6. And here there are two main moves for white. e3 is played a lot, and I played knight to e5 with the idea of retaking this pawn with the knight on c4 and having a beautiful central square for my knight there on e5. Knight to d7, knight takes c4, knight to b6. So black wants to trade this active piece of white. I went to e5 back. He played e6, and here I played bishop to g5. A more common move here is to play f3. I didn't know the theory about this variation, so afterwards when I was analyzing my game, I saw that f3 is the most played move, and it is very logical, of course, to control this e4 square, eventually play e4. Like it goes like this, attacking the knight there, and then after trading, white takes on b6, knight to d7, and now e4, having a strong center. And this is how the variation continues. So it gives white very active play. So this is something to remember for next time, this idea of playing f3 and e4 in this variation. But well, let's go back. So I didn't play f3, I played bishop to g5, pinning this knight on f6, and also preparing e4 eventually. Bishop to b4 was played now, so now he's preventing my idea of playing e4 by pinning this knight on c3. So I played e3. My bishop is out of the pawn chain on g5, so e3 doesn't lock it up here and inside my position. He played a5 here. The idea of a5, I think, was to as a prophylactic move to prevent me from playing e5. I think that was the reason why he played this a5. Bishop to d3. I wanted to trade this light square bishop, because his light square bishop is very well placed in that diagonal. He played knight to d5. I played rook to c1, placing the rook on this half open file. And then he took on d3. I retook h6, bishop to h4, maintaining the pin on f6. He played knight to b6. Now castling, and here he took on c3, and I, I expected him to play castling kingside actually, to continue the normal development, but he took on c3, probably because after I have castled now, the knight on c3 is not longer pinned, so this bishop on b4 doesn't have much of activity or any purpose of being on b4, and by eliminating my knight on c3 he can regain probably control over these two light squares e4 and d5, so I think that's the reason why he took on c3. The tactical idea to gain the pawn on a4, I don't think that's really why he did it, but he did take on a4, but it didn't matter because this pawn I will regain it after rook to a3. He cannot really defend it with b5 because the c6 pawn is vulnerable, so this knight must go back to b6. Let's have a short look at this variation b5. I could take immediately on c6, but then queen d5 might come attacking my knight on c6, so perhaps it's better to play maybe rook to c2, I mean queen to c2 attacking this one twice, or perhaps b3 chasing away the knight first. Let's see what the engine says here. Well, it says b3 is a strong move. It says queen to e2 is strong. Queen to e2, that's interesting. Queen to e2. I don't quite understand this idea. Let's have a look. Queen to e2. If queen d6 defending the pawn, then rook to c1. So this c6 pawn will stay weak. So now queen to b4, attacking b2, but b2 is defended. Now he says either I can take here, or it's attacked twice b2. So if I take here, he can take there, and after trading queens, rook to b3 regains the pawn. And black has a passed pawn, but this is very weak, and the king is still in the center. He has to lose a tempo by castling still to activate his other rook, so this is better for white. But well, anyway, let's go back to the game now, because he didn't play b5, he played knight to b6. I placed my rook on a1, attacking a5 to regain this lost pawn. g5 was played, bishop g3, knight h5. He wants to trade my bishop that is indeed here in a very strong and beautiful diagonal. Now I took on a5, and well, I did, by the way, consider things like knight to g6 here. Quite a wild idea. Knight to g6, and of course black must not take, because then I retake with queen and check. The knight is attacked, so I win at least a pawn, and the whole structure of the king is damaged. So here rook to g8 was what I expected, and I thought, okay, what can I do now after this? If he doesn't take my sacrifice, then well, okay, his king is in the center, that's the only thing, so I must go back to e5 with my knight, not to lose it. And then if he trades on g3, there is not much of an attack, I think. He can always play f6 or f5 later if it's necessary. So that's why I rejected this knight to g6 idea. Instead of that, I played rook takes a5, simply regaining the pawn, and I have the idea that my position is better here, because I have this strong knight in the center on e5, and he hasn't castled yet. His king might become vulnerable. I expect him to trade on g3, but well, let's have a look. He took on a5, I retook, then he took on g3, I took back with the h pawn, already, not only because if I take with the f pawn, e3 becomes a bit weak, but also because if I think with the h pawn, then maybe later h6 can become weak as I can place a rook on h1. But mainly I did this because then I keep my pawn structure better, all the pawns together defending each other. He cancelled here, and again I was looking for tactics, so I thought about knight takes f7, but it doesn't really give much. I played rook to a7. Let's go back one move. If I take now on f7, knight takes f7, rook takes f7, queen g6 check, king to f8, queen takes h6 check, king goes to e7 defending the e6 pawn. I can take on g5 and the king escapes to the other side of the board. So, well, I have some pawns, 3 pawns for the sacrifice piece, but I don't see enough compensation here. I think black is better here because the pawns that I have received, let's say, for this sacrificed piece are on the king's side. So that means that if I advance these passed pawns, my own king will become a bit vulnerable, and his king seems to be more or less safe here. So this knight also from b6 will go to d5 perhaps, or to c2 attacking my pawn. So I didn't believe in these chances, so that's why I didn't go into this variation. But I did consider it, and that's something that's very good to do, always to consider what tactical chances are in a position. I played rook to a7, queen to c7 defending b7, queen to a3, queen to d8, or sorry, rook to d8, knight to d3. Here I wanted to go to c5 with my knight to have more pressure on b7. Also I had ideas like perhaps queen to a6, if b takes a6 and taking on c7, things like that. There were different options. Let me have a look. Did I have here queen to a6? Yes, here also actually queen to a6 have would have been possible. Queen to a6 even better than knight to d3. Queen to a6, queen to a6 and queen to a5 are both good moves. This is a good one. He has to defend b8. I remember I did consider this variation, but I thought that after this rook to b8 I didn't see how to continue. The engine analysis says that white is better in this position. Of course white is attacking and black is defending this b7 pawn, so it's tied up to the defense, but it's not easy to find a way to really make a concrete progress here. So the engine says queen to a5, the best continuation. Let's see. Threatening knight to c4, attacking the knight, and which is pinned, but he can play knight to d5 right now. And well, we're going to an endgame that is a bit better for white, but it's not that clear. Let's go back to the game. So here I played knight to d3, knight to c8 was played, attacking my rook. I played queen to a5, which is a nice tactical idea. He cannot take the rook because the queen is hanging. So actually I'm forcing him to trade queens, and I thought this endgame must be a bit better for me, but it was not easy. Actually, after king f8, rook to a8, this is how it continued, and my king is very far away from the center, and he has in fact a pawn majority on this queen side. So if these two pieces that he has, the rook and the knight, become active and it can bring his king towards the center, then it's even perhaps a bit better for black later. He played f6 here, knight to c4, king to d7, and here I started realizing that he has brought his king towards his pieces. He can activate his pieces easily, and my judgment here was that my winning chances had gone, and that later black can have winning chances because of this potential passed pawn on the queen side. So here something psychologically seen happened to me, that I suddenly became afraid of losing. And that's something that happens in this kind of games where you had winning chances and suddenly you see that it all vanishes. So you see all your chances disappearing, and you see that your opponent is becoming better and better in his position. And then we start kind of predicting that, oh my god, if this continues like this, I will even lose this game. So what I did is I offered him a draw here, and I played a move that is actually not a good one. I played rook to a1, which is very passive, of course. Instead of this, it's better to play perhaps rook to a3 or g4. G4 would have been a good move, g4, because then it fixes this h-pawn, so controlling the h5 square. I played rook to a1, offering him a draw. He refused the draw. So by refusing a draw, again, psychology is so important in chess, because by refusing the draw is actually telling me I will try to win this game. So that means that perhaps he might take some risks. King to c7, king f1, knight to b6, take, and we get an rook ending, rook to d5, rook to c1, and now he plays e5. So here the idea of black is to trade these two pawns, so he has a majority of 2 against 1 on the queen side, and he can try to make a passed pawn there. Well, I took indeed on e5, and he retook with a rook. Now I played king to d3. In fact, the better move here was to play g4, and this is something that I must really remember. It's very important in this kind of positions, if the opponent have weaknesses, to try to fix those pawns. By playing g4 here, the h-pawn cannot advance anymore, and if he plays f5, then I can trade this one, and then I will not have anymore this double pawn, and I will have a passed e-pawn. So g4 would have been a good move here. Well, instead of that I played king to d3, rook to b5 was played, rook c2 defending the b2 pawn, rook c5, and here I started calculating what would happen if I trade the rooks, and I found it quite difficult to calculate and evaluate if the pawn ending would be one for me or not, or perhaps one for him because of this pawn majority. Well, that's why chess engines can help us so much, because they calculate so fast that here in a few seconds Fritz, the chess program, tells me that it is wise to trade rooks here. But well, I didn't do it. I played rook to e2 with the idea of advancing my e-pawn. Let's have a short look at this trading variation that Fritz gives. What happens is that the king goes towards the weak pawn on f6. Black defends it, and then white can start advancing his own passed pawn. And the main difference between black and white here is that white has his king in the center, so it's easier for white to choose to what side to go, to the queen side or the king side. So after king d7, g4 fixing the pawns, and now preparing to have another passed pawn here, and the black king prevents the pawns from advancing, while white also has his own passed pawn here. So here the position is won for white. There is no way for black to save it. But well, those are things that either you have to study endgames very well, or you have to have a very strong calculating skills, and I didn't. So I played rook to e2, king b5. I advance my pawn. Now he comes with a rook to e5, and here I started to get hope to win, because I thought, wait a minute, he's not investing any longer in the advance of his own pawns, he's now reacting to my play. So that means that he must be a bit concerned about my chances. So I played f4 here, with the tempo advancing my pawn. Rook to e6, king d4, bring the king to the center. He gave a check, I went to c3, and he played c5 now. Now I played e5, and now here he made a big mistake. He should have taken f takes e5, that would have been the correct move, but he played rook to e6. I placed a question mark in my annotation here, because this is a tactical mistake. I can play f5 here, sacrificing the e-pawn, and in fact he cannot take it, because if he takes on e5, I take with the rook, and then he must retake with the f-pawn, and then my f-pawn advances to f6, f7, f8. So suddenly black is in very big trouble here, because if he doesn't take on e5, like in the game happened, he played rook to c6, then I have of course this beautiful pass pawn by playing e6. So now the chances turned completely, and I was winning, and in this position I knew that this is absolutely won for me. It's not possible to stop that pawn easily. So the game continued with rook to c8, rook d2, the king went to c6, then rook to d7. That's the way to play this. After this my rook can go to f7 and capture the f6 pawn, so I have two connected pass pawns. b5 he played, rook f7, king d6, I took, king e5 attacking my rook, the rook goes to f7 simply, and now he played rook c6, and I advanced my pawn to e7, and here he resigned, because it's impossible to stop this pawn. So what are the lessons learned from this game? Well, the opening and middle game, I'm happy about that, because I did have initiative, I did have more space, and put pressure on my opponent. Now it's interesting what happened when I saw that my slight advantage, perhaps in the position, was not big, so he could come back, and at that point I became concerned about losing the game, so I offered a draw with a very passive move. Another thing is that by refusing my draw offer, he committed himself to try to play for a win, and the endgame was in fact equal for both, and he tried to force it. He made a mistake, he perhaps underestimated my chances, and I won. Another interesting moment is the idea of playing g4 earlier to fix those two black pawns. That's something to remember, this pattern, and a very wise thing to do is to study pawn endgames. They look very simple, but they are so complicated. So this whole consideration about trading rooks or not trading rooks is very important, and I didn't make the right decision at that moment, but well, at the end, luckily I won the game, so I'm very happy about this. Okay, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time on YouTube. Goodbye.